Hello everybody, welcome back to Final Fantasy Diaries. Sorry that I sound kind of like I'm dying. I have a cold. So this is probably going to be a pretty short episode. Woo! And I do apologize for all the coughing and sniffling and just pretty much everything about my vocal quality right now. I'm trying to get back to the, to do some other quests, because wasn't quite ready for Xanakin. So go to a place that's a little bit easier than that, and just try to figure out some side quests and stuff I can do, because it's been a while since I've played this game. Like this one. There are missions in these, so I'll do some of them. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I apologize for some of my videos this week, which will also have my sick voice as commentator.
Your concert was incredible!
Would you sign this, please?
So since I don't have much mental power to come up with and discuss a topic,
No pushing.
I'm just going to start with an introduction to summons, which are another major part of Final Fantasy lore, including some of my favorite games, like 6 and 10.
The whole mess started with the garment grid. That's
I'm
the
not going to
invention that
go
lets us harness the
into a
Dressphere's
lot
power.
of details about some of the individual summons. Like, I'm not going to go into the detail of where Shiva got her name and Rama and Ifrit and etc. Because I want to do that as particular
This was the easy part.
Interceptor researches videos and do more detail into some primary cultural sources for those. This video, I'm just going to introduce you to what the role of summons
Chase the
is,
thieves all the way to Luca, but when we arrived,
in particular,
Hear that?
Final
Lady Yuna
Fantasies.
in concert! Alright, think there are any tickets left?
Looks like your
So,
imposter's pretty popular.
summoning,
I doubt anyone would believe ours
for
is the
those who
real
don't know,
Not dressed like that.
summoning is
didn't ask to
when
wear this.
you... Haha, Google. When you grab,
It's hot. Shall we
grab,
finish this before Yuna passes out?
when you
We'll be back
are
in 2
able
minutes.
to
Be a good
summon
Google, you hear?
a
The plan was to sneak into the imposter's concert and recover the garment grid. If I win, I would
some
go
kind
home
of
with Clone,
creature
so it was up to Riku and Pain.
using your
Which left me with
powers.
nothing to
The
do but
creatures
lay low
have
and wait.
a little
And
bit
that's
of
how
a
I got stuck
different
with the Gullwing's
perspective.
prized garment.
The summons
I
have
complained,
a slightly
but brother's
different
orders were still
origin
orders.
depending on the context of the game. But a lot of what they do are the same. A lot of the summoning is the same. So, summoning began in Final Fantasy III as one of the many job classes.
So what did you do after we left?
Nothing particularly surprising about that.
Top secret.
There were a couple secret summons, but for the most part, it worked just like a spell. You became a particular class, you bought or found the summons, and you equipped them. Pretty straightforward. In Final Fantasy IV, it did get more context when the summons became Eidolons, and you have Rydia the Summoner from the City of Mist. And she has a journey of growth where she learns more about the Eidolons. And
Get over here.
They have more personality. They have more of their own kingdom in 4. So they start to really develop then. In 5, they're more or less just another job class thing like they were in 3. 5 and 3, you see a lot of comparisons between when it comes to how the game was built and the mechanics. Whereas 4 and 6 are more similar. So 6, the summons become espers, and they become even more central to the story, because the summoners, or the espers, are being used by the government, and you really have to build a rapport with them, even more than you did in 4. And I really love the 6 story and that dimension between the espers and the gods, and you and the enemy. 7, they get downplayed again, so there's this constant back and forth. 7, of course, as I'm sure most of you know, does have a very complex story dealing with kind of the broader world and how that is made up. But it does not at all have the same emphasis on summons exactly. There's a lot of other things going on, shall we say, that summons don't get the notice. Excuse me. After 7, we get 8. I love 8, and in 8 they have guardian forces instead of espers or summons or whatever. Guardian forces don't... It's hard to say kind of where guardian forces fall. They get used as a bit of a MacGuffin. They're kind of a plot device to make the game work. And they are interesting because certain ones are supposed to be equipped to certain people. Oh, here we go. But otherwise, when it comes to the grand scheme of the story,
You're here to promote the concert, right?
I feel like they're not
No, there must be some mistake.
Thanks, and
as
don't
central
screw up.
as, say, in 6.
Did I do it because I couldn't?
But they're
turn you
really
down?
cool.
Or because the conversation was over before I
I
had
really,
the chance?
and they have some really unique summons in 8. Obviously, I really love 8. Alright. Final Fantasy X, we get back to a game
Get him, Walter!
where summoners take some central stage. Now, the truth is that I have very little idea what actually happens in Final Fantasy IX. I cannot explain the plot in the least.
Don't forget to cheer!
So, I can't say too much about it.
The concert's about...
But the fact that a couple characters are summoners and that there is a village of summoners is an important part of the story. But I would not say... But yeah, kind of despite that, I would not say that they are the central element of the story, because there's a lot more going on with Zidane and others. So, But, you know, they're cool, and it's cool to have the summoners and be able to do that. Oh, this is hard. I still have to give 2 more balloons to people. Come on, take one. Yes, you do. Everybody wants a balloon. Who else do I give these balloons to? Do I just give balloons to more people? Can I give a balloon to Quota Guy? Again? Anyway. And then comes Final Fantasy X, where not only is the main character full of summoning glory, but that's really a central part of the plot. I don't know who else I'm supposed to give these balloons to. Haha. And
that makes 10.
these summons are called Aeons.
Y-R-P in position. It's
And
showtime, girls.
these Aeons, I think, possibly have the most personality, the most life. You really get attached to them as you go
You think
through and
Lamont was
find
enjoying
them
herself? Until she got
and
hurt.
use them in the story, and it's really upsetting what happens at the end.
Does she look that much like me?
I won't talk about 11 or 14.
The concert's
15,
sold
yeah,
out.
14.
You can't go in.
Sorry.
I can't?
Definitely not.
12 has
Come on,
Esperance
get outta
again,
here.
so like 6.
Hey, we got some gate crashers.
These
Those little
Espers
spear hunters.
are not central to the game,
Yes, sir.
Oh no.
but they are really interesting. 12 has a lot of
So I didn't know
background,
what to do.
Hold still.
It's me.
and I feel like you can read and think about a lot of these Espers, and I want to because Lissa's asked me
I wasn't
to
sure
write
what
about
I was
them.
doing.
But they're not something that you have to
Riku sure was having fun.
use a lot in 12. You don't even have to get that many in the span of the game. In 13, the summons deal with Lassie. And you have to kind of face your greatest fear, and then you can unleash a summon, fight it, and once you fight it,
Looks like trouble.
you can summon the Eidolon. So they were important for plot moments. But like most things in 13, there's not really a lot of options. You get them when you need them, and then maybe you'll use them again, maybe you won't, and whatever. It doesn't feel like you have much of a choice in 13. But they are very pretty, so I'll give them that. But I think it is interesting to keep the 13 mythos in mind when we start looking at 15. And I was reminded of that when I was trying to kind of figure out, piece together the ending of 15.
Listening close enough?
And, you know, the Lassie are marked at some point to fulfill their mission. And if they don't, they turn into crystals, or... No, they turn into monsters if they don't. They turn into crystals if they do.
I'm listening for your whistle.
And in 15, you can kind of see Noctis as someone who's been marked and has to fulfill his thing. And perhaps the Hexatheon, the 6 gods, who are the summons in that game, are similar. Which is why, spoilers, my current theory is still that they've turned into, actually, gods at the end. They've turned into the Hexatheon. And I know that, what was I going to say? Oh, one of the reasons that I decided to do this topic was because I finally managed to do the Pitios ruins, where there's all the sculptures of Ifrit and Shiva, and you know, I'm very curious in 15 about what's happening there, how their backstory, and how that plays into what happens in the game. I really wish the ruins would actually give you, like, inscriptions to read or something to give you some context. Sadly, they don't. But the summons in 15 seem to have been human, is kind of what I'm going for. And accordingly, there is a lot of backstory there that I hope one day to get into. But today is not that day because I am tired of talking because I have a cold. So, gonna cut this short. Thanks so much for watching. I apologize again for my health and for some of the video qualities for next week. Hopefully next Sunday I'll be feeling better. But I have a busy couple weeks, so we'll see how it goes. Take care. Interceptor out.